All right, so we have Bethany saying psychologists have discovered a technique for replacing one's nightmare with pleasant dreams. Okay, so the psychologists have this technique that will replace one's nightmares with pleasant dreams, and the psychologists have successfully taught it to adults suffering from chronic nightmares. Okay, that's cool. Studies have found that nightmare-prone children are especially likely to suffer from nightmares as adults. All right, so these studies have shown that children that are more likely to get nightmares are also more likely to suffer from them as adults. Thus is a key indicator word here. Psychologists should is weak, but we'll keep going. Thus, psychologists should direct efforts towards identifying nightmare-prone children so that these children can be taught the technique for replacing my recording's covering it up. Replacing their nightmares with pleasant dreams. All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead, and after thus, we know that that's our conclusion. So the psychologist should seek out these children that are more likely to have these nightmares and teach them this technique. We want to read this question. Most people call these, principle questions or justify questions. I just consider these strengthen questions. If you would go ahead and replace principles with premise, and you think which of the following principles or which of the following premises, if valid, most helps to strengthen drawing the conclusion and Bethany's argument, it's one less question stem you have to remember. So if we're considering it a strengthen question, we're going to be looking for really strong wording. All right, so I'm going to predict something that would strengthen that we should do this. I'm going to predict that if there's any way that we can alleviate pain for people as an adult, we should do whatever we can to do it. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into the answer choices. A, psychologists should make an effort to determine why certain children are especially prone to nightmares while other children are not. This is a nice answer, but it's not going to be the right answer because of how weak the word should is. Should means nothing in the court of law, so we're going to go ahead and cross that one off. B, any psychological technique that can be successfully taught to children can also be successfully taught to an adult. Once again, that's nice, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to go ahead and move on to C. C, psychologists should do everything they can to minimize the number of adults troubled by chronic nightmares. Yes, I love this answer. While the word should is weak, if this is true, that psychologists should do everything they can to minimize the number of adults troubled by chronic nightmares, I like the do everything they can. That's really strong. And so if this is true, that would definitely strengthen the idea that of our conclusion. D, identifying nightmare-prone children is generally more difficult than teaching adults the technique for replacing nightmares with pleasant dreams. Once again, this is irrelevant. And E will be irrelevant as well.